Spaghetti! If you were like me and grew up playing Mario and watching YouTube, then chances are you saw some stuff you shouldn't have. This era of the internet had such a weird feeling to it because seeing a family-friendly icon was not a guarantee the content within would match that. I saw Yoshi get obliterated about 25 times and I'm still recovering from the mental scars of witnessing such an event. You see, with the dozen or so Mario videos on the site, there was one creator in particular that stood out for not only their unique style of comedy, but because it was actually appropriate to watch. Mostly appropriate to watch. That channel is SMG4. Created by Luke Lerdwichago in 2009, the channel would become famous for its machinimas around the Super Mario series. For such a simple concept, it's impressive to see the channel still going, and still attracting millions of views. That isn't to say the original idea for SMG4 has stayed the same throughout the years, far from it. There were things Luke and his eventual team would experiment with. As for their quality, it depends on who you ask. Seeing how there's no one around but me, I'll tell you everything you need to know. This story is going to sound familiar to any original SMG4 fan watching, but I used to watch this channel religiously. My introduction was SM64 The Adventures of Mario and Luigi Episode 1. From that point onward, I would stay loyal into watching every video both new and old. I remember laughing as Mario's adventures got wackier and wackier, being excited as I saw the introduction of other Nintendo IPs, and admittedly getting way too emotional as the characters started going through arcs. It seemed like my hyperfixation with SMG4 wasn't going to slow down anytime soon. Until one day, it did. Around 2022, the channel would upload the finale to an ongoing arc. I finished watching and then took a step back, realizing just how much had changed since I initially started watching. Not only that, I realized how much I actually didn't like that. Yeah, I was one of those kids where if the status quo was slightly altered, I was gonna be pissed. Seeing as each passing year showed more changes instead of resetting back to what I used to know, this led me down the road every kid eventually goes down.
This channel I used to watch isn't good anymore!
That's where my original time with SMG4 ended. However, I've recently gotten this urge to go back and revisit the channel. It probably stems from the fact I left on such a sour note with a show that had such an impact on me. With this video, I hope to use it as a way to get some form of closure. I'll be doing so by going over as much as I can from humble beginnings, the subjective golden years, and yes, even the era past my time. Heads up, I will be covering the animation studio SMG4 is technically under, aka Glitch Productions. I have a separate video covering all that already for those interested. Back on topic, when I was doing my research, I discovered a lot of hate for the modern SMG4 videos. That certainly begs some questions. Did I leave due to a decline in quality, or growing out of the channel's humor? How do I feel about the show now? Was it even good to begin with? They all have answers that we'll only figure out by starting our journey back at the beginning.
By the way, I have a Patreon that's like $2 a month. You know, get your name at the end of the video. But follow me on Twitter. I post some funny stuff there sometimes.
The machinimas may be what Luke's best known for. However, the channel SMG4 didn't start off like that. The first few uploads were showcases of glitches in video games. Unfortunately, these have been lost to time. Potential fun fact about them though, this original form of content may have alluded to his name, Super Mario Glitchy 4, though that remains unconfirmed. Enough about the history. I know why you guys are here. You want to hear that good stuff where Mario does the funny, like having derpy eyes and saying his iconic catchphrase, spaghetti. Here's Luke playing Mario 64 with text at the bottom. Life ain't fair, pal. The first video isn't even watchable by today's standards, with reasons that you could pick up just by looking at it. Videos moving forward, you can tell were made because Luke found a cool mode on his N64 emulator, and then based the whole episode around it. Admittedly, it's charming how creative he got with such simple mods. The emulator allows me to change the game's textures? Why not have an episode where it's a strange world Mario dreams of? The emulator allows me to freeze things? Why not have an episode where Mario accidentally freezes time and needs to go inside a clock to fix it? At the end of the day, you are simply watching Mario 64 gameplay with text, but it's through Luke's creative way of storytelling that made these videos so engaging. Quickly, innovation came as Luke discovered more of what he could do. One thing in particular would be how to recolor Mario. This led to Luigi now showing up and interacting with Mario, who at that point could only talk to himself or an NPC. That didn't compare though to when the man himself got added, SMG4. It's a bit funny thinking how the channel is named after someone who didn't appear until video 24. I'm gonna be so honest, self-inserts are more often than not the funniest thing ever to me, so it's weird to see Luke's self-insert working as well as it does for me. I don't know, I just might be a sucker for that dumb guy and straight man duo that Mario and SMG4 would pick up. These two would crack such amazing jokes like calling something gay, and they also had... well, they definitely weren't a one-trick pony, because they also love to say... Okay, do I think some of the jokes made are appropriate to say? Heavens no. So why am I having a giggling tone as I speak? Well, this doesn't only apply to SMG4, more so the internet around this time. If you're about my age, you know what I'm talking about. Going back and rewatching some old stuff and finding it crazy some of the stuff you can get away with saying that I must emphasize would not be okay to say now. But damn it, is it kind of funny it was the norm at one point. Here's a tough question, what aged more poorly? The jokes in old SMG4 videos or the other machinima creators that would eventually show up? I'm not going to speak as if I know the details of every single creator that were in these, but let's just say one of these guys had done some stuff I won't be getting into. Unless you're Mario. I'm not going to get too ahead of myself though, we'll get back to that. For now, this was the whole cast, plus other Mario characters. It would stay like that consistently, and with some refining, we would enter what I and many others would consider the golden era, aka 2012 to 2015. This was such a magical time. Yeah, classics like Who Let the Chomp Out, Mario Goes Shopping, and who could forget a dose of Dr. Mario. These hilarious videos made this version of Mario my favorite character of all media that has ever existed. If I'm gonna talk about Mario, then I need to bring up the classic of all time. The Adventures of Mario and Luigi. This trilogy saw the two iconic brothers going on a wacky quest to save Princess Peach. It was beautiful. Damn it, beautiful I tell ya! Unfortunately, the main story would conclude in episode 3. Thankfully, an episode 4 would be produced, to which the series was cancelled. You see, that's how they get you all emotionally connected only to snatch it away. We call this move the what the hell, bring back the Adventures of Mario and Luigi, ya goof! Goofy! I could go on for hours, honestly. Who remembers 0% of Spaghetti being extremely funny, like this one part where Mario... Oh dear. Mario and Bowser was also another hilarious series, with the first one being my favorite. Both then and now, I find Bowser's glitchy movement to be absolute perfection, albeit for very different reasons compared to before. Now, this most definitely happened because Luke didn't care to fix it in the Project 64 program. Here's the thing, I don't care. In fact, this makes me happier. Stuff like this I'd argue adds rewatch value to this era. The imperfections add this new layer of comedy I couldn't see back then. Thank goodness for it, because other than that, I've realized these videos are... I wouldn't call them unfunny. Outdated might be the better term. That isn't to say there aren't some good stuff here. Case in point... Okay, I swear I was trying to transition into talking about War of the Fat Italians. Alright, you guys know me by now. I love me some FNAF. So, as a FNAF fan, how do these hold up?
Only you can prevent...
Exactly how I wanted them to. If I had to rank the main three because I don't count these, it would go FNAF 3 because it stars Luigi and has Robot Mario, FNAF 1 because it has this wholesome scene where you can faintly hear Markiplier swear, and lastly FNAF 2, not because it's bad, but because it doesn't have Luigi or Markiplier swearing. Game back on track, War of the Fat Italians! While starting a year before the Golden Age, it became what it is during this era. It's a yearly event where SMG4 and Mario fight in challenges. As a kid, it was a no-brainer to drop everything to watch the latest installment. Hell, later years it was reasonable to kill when it came to the challenge submissions. To this day, I'm still upset that SMG4 never did my comment where I asked who could explain better how babies are made. In retrospect, it was probably because I wasn't at the right place.
I need the bell!
If there's one thing I realized while rewatching these, it's that none of what they do matters. SMG4 could win 50 challenges and Mario could win like none, and they'd still leave it up to the viewer to decide the winner. This was going to be the part where I hint a subtle jab at the modern Waffies not following this original format like it's a bad thing. However, it's actually for the better. Don't get me wrong, I like the host that I've failed to mention up until now. He's just unneeded. I don't know what happened to him anyways. 2015 may have marked the end of a perfect time, but it was also the beginning of something greater for Waffy. Waffy 2015 will be the start of a rap battle as the grand finale to the event. There are no words I could use to describe how much I adore what I'm about to play.
It's a me, Mario. I'm the best, don't you see? There's nothing better in this world except spaghetti. You think you got the grooves of Mario's moves? I'm sorry, but you don't even compare with my man boobs.
Well, I didn't know being a fatty was so cool. Hopping that spaghetti while you sit and drool. You keep eating spaghetti, always wanting more. But sorry, not me. I'm SMG4. You're supposed to be plumbing, doing other crap instead, while you just sit at home with Luigi in bed.
You mother...
I love it. I love it so much. Lucky for us, SMG4 has more songs from around this time. Who could forget the What the heck? Oh! If someone uploaded this, what else could they possibly make? They upload normal stuff. I don't get it. They make perfectly fine content. Why did they slip off the ticking sound? While this is a parody of the Potter Puppet Pals, the mysterious ticking noise, I didn't watch that first. Yeah, despite having parody in the title, Baby Blue decided, no, Puppet Pals ripped off 4! One parody that I knew was one was Bowser Cyrus Wrecking Ball. About halfway through, Mario joins, and I must confess, I've always loved this Mario voice. I'd go as far to say I prefer this over what we have now in the official stuff. Mario! Something about it is just super comforting. I don't know how else to explain it. I did some searching to see who voiced him, and came across a Dat Voice guy. Huh, another guy on the internet. Love to see it. Look man, I gotta tell ya, if this clip somehow finds you, thank you for your performance as Mario. For me, it's the best one I've ever heard in any parody online.
He has a small peeky.
By the way, I said was earlier since Mario is no longer voiced by him. It's said that the man was just simply not interested in returning to SMG4. I don't know the exact origin of that info, so take it with a grain of salt. Although, it isn't the craziest thing to believe since it sounds pretty normal. I respect the decision, even if I'm devastated by it. You know what else sucks? None of the good music I mentioned is available to stream. Not to spoil it, but if you look up SMG4 on something like Spotify, it gives you what I assume are the lame stuff, like creative controlling, roll the dice. Yucky. If you think all they could do for music is parodies, you're right, except sometimes they can get jolly with it. Genuinely, I try to make it a yearly tradition to listen to the 12 Idiots to Christmas at least once during the holiday season. Nothing gets me more in the Christmas mood than hearing
Day of Christmas, the princess threw at me.
Luke, if you're watching this, please add these gems to Spotify. I'll be nicer to the modern stuff if you do. Please, I need my Bowser Cyrus! Oh, and re-release the Mario Simulator Interactive for all modern consoles. YouTube got rid of annotations, and playing it now by pressing the link in the description isn't as fun. When this was working as intended though, oh, it was the coolest thing ever! While I would love to keep reminiscing about what I remember, I feel like I would be repeating myself. There's only so much I can say about Cinnamonar before I get back to the point of this being a product of the time, rather than a timeless comedic goldmine. Wait, the payoff to earlier was that there was a YouTuber who said some really bad stuff because they didn't get to the SMG4 Cinnamonar collab. Okay, let's now get to the not golden age. Don't be misled by my segue. I wouldn't call 2016 to 2018 an immediate downgrade where everything stinks now. I'd more call this part the setup. To what exactly? Everything. Luke got more people working on SMG4, with one of note being his own brother Kevin Lerdwichhagel. Not only was Kevin put on the writing side for the channel, a second channel would launch the two brothers called Hobo Bros, where they would game, react, and do whatever this clip shows.
Or did I disappear?
Back then, if the latest SMG4 didn't do it for me, I knew I could rely on Hobo Bros to deliver. You just can't beat Mario. That wasn't the only thing going on, as Glitchy Boy was in its early years, later rebranding to Glitch Production. I, for one, was starting to learn Luke's tactics. For Waffy 2017, the announcements were made both on SMG4 and the Awesome Mario channel, which basically was a secret second channel for Luke. I remember I took the two thumbnails and combined them in a Google slide that I still have to this day. You know what, I'll say it, I'm proud of this one, damn it. On the subject of YouTube channels and SMG4, I really enjoy the Mario Tube episode. After it came out, viewers made fan channels and tried to seem official. Oh, looking at these, oh, it brings me back. Anyone here remember such classics like Ouija Pie? I wonder what happened to that guy anyways. None of what I said though compares to the addition of new characters and series. If Mario Was in Blink is an iconic part of the channel's history. Mario gets thrown into a popular IP, and 10 minutes of story come from it. My favorites were Baldi, Cuphead, and Team Fortress 2. I would have loved to add Hello Neighbor to the list if SMG4 took my request. Dang it, not again! More interestingly, we got new characters. These weren't your ordinary Mario reskins or characters from the franchise, besides Boopkins. No, whole other franchises. You have Meggy, a brave, competitive, energetic inkling originating from If Mario Was in Splatoon! Sorry if I butchered that. Bob, a selfish, attention-hungry, narcissistic son of a gun who got his debut in Can Ganondorf Come Out to Play. Psycho, a mean, unstable, strong gal debuting in Doki Doki Mario Club. Then you have the one we absolutely cannot forget. What? This has no connection to any sort of game or media. Who is this? Well, to understand, we must move on to the biggest change that forever changed the channel, the arcs. The first was in 2018, called the Waluigi arc. The plot loosely centers around Waluigi gaining powers from being rejected all his life. This definitely was a lot cooler when it came out, because watching it now, the story is not cohesive whatsoever. One thing will happen in each episode that semi-ties things together, but for the most part, it's irrelevant stuff going on. A highlight was Luigi sacrificing himself in the Saw episode. Oh, and I guess Terry was introduced here and became part of the main cast moving forward. Now, I could try to explain more of the plot, but I find it funnier to show footage out of context. The finale to the arc was a War of the Fat Italians, and let me say, this shit was the craziest thing for me in 2018. Listen, I was still a baby. I didn't know what an Avengers Infinity War was, or Kanye West visiting the White House. What I knew was that the SMG4 channel was slowly changing for a Waluigi takeover.
Okay, my dudes, you ready? 3, 2, 1. It's Waluigi time.
When the video finally dropped, I mean, it was kind of cool. The most notable part for me was the rap battle in the end, where instead of Mario versus SMG4, it was the SMG4 crew versus Waluigi. The song reeks of 2018 nerd culture, but like, in the best way possible. Some people might call it cringe, but for me, it's hilarious. Not so much because the song itself is funny, but because it's like cringe. It's just really good. I don't know what to say. The one part that unironically makes me laugh is at the end where Wario shows up. Afterwards, Wario and Waluigi have a comedically sweet reunion, and honestly, that was enough for me to consider this arc decent in the end. Less than a month later, the channel would start another arc called the Rapper Bob arc. I can't find the source of this anywhere, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember Luke saying the Waluigi arc was somewhat of a mistake. There originally wasn't a plan to make an ongoing narrative, so most of it was made up. I mention that since this is the second attempt of an ongoing story across multiple videos. Logically, that should mean the storytelling will have some sort of improvement, right? This arc sucks. I never cared for Bob that much, so that's probably a reason I didn't get much from the story. Speaking of, the plot follows Bob wanting to become a successful rapper. He does this by secretly pushing his best friend Boopkins down a well, only to save him later in front of others. Using this newfound fame, he throws his friends aside to boost his rap career. It's such a nothing burger arc. The choice to go more serious was such a weird decision. I'm sorry, I can't take these characters seriously, especially Bob and Fishy Boopkins. There's a part where Bob's being really mean and drops the fact that he pushed Boopkins down the well intentionally, and the model for Boopkins is way too distracting from the tone the scene wants to have. At least when the Waluigi arc had its serious moments, it was underlined with a comedic tone, since it was an arc based on a meme. In contrast, the Rapper Bob arc wants you to fully care about the friendship between Bob and Fishy Boopkins. I don't care about Bob. Bob's a dick! Of course, by the end, Bob learns the errors of his ways and becomes friends with everyone again. That's cool. I don't care. Bob sucks. After this, they take a break from the arcs until March of 2019, returning with the infamous anime arc. The story is that anime gets banned in the Mushroom Kingdom, with Mario and the gang going on a wacky adventure to undo the ban. They're carried by a newly introduced character named Axel. His whole thing is that he can draw anime characters to life using Inkling ink. Once he joins and helps the main characters accomplish their goals, the arc keeps going. It's crazy, they solve the conflict by episode 7. There's 12 of these. The rest of the story takes a sharp turn with Maggie getting kidnapped by a weeaboo named Francis. He wants to use her and other Inklings Inc. to make an island full of waifus. It's overall poorly connected together and not satisfying in the slightest to watch as one package. The main thing on my mind as I watch is the question of why? Why don't SMG4 arcs work? Believe it or not, I didn't want to come to this video only to say SMG4 sucks, it gives me likes. I wanted to find some sort of explanation. Thankfully, by episode 11, I finally figured out my main issue with these stories. SMG4 likes doing shit just because. Maggie's human transformation at the end is the prime example of that. I remember my initial reaction being pure hatred because, you know, I was a kid who hate change. Through modern lenses, I still dislike it, except now because it's so random. Why is she human? What does this mean to anything? Let me fill you in on a little secret. Nothing. It means nothing. If I had to guess, I'd say Luke wanted another character to make merch of, but because Maggie was based on a Nintendo IP, she was changed into a human to allow SMG4 to eventually sell stuff like It would also explain the Maggie spinoff that would happen over on Glitch Production later on. Look, I get it. Maggie was pretty popular back then, and making her Nintendo free so you could do more stuff with her makes sense. Now, when you go and create Sunset Paradise, that's when I'm gonna say something. Other than human Maggie, an important thing to come out of this was Desti. Desti's prior appearance were in the Splatoon-related episodes, serving as a rival to Maggie. In the anime arc, she tags along with SMG4 and friends to help find Maggie. Her only reason for joining is to make sure Maggie's alive so she could beat her in the Splatfest. When Desti does find Maggie, it's when they're both kidnapped by Francis, so they're forced to work together, but become buddy-buddy. Everything's going great. Nothing could take away from the beautiful friendship that is Maggie and Desti. I'm gonna be so honest, this made me cry on my first viewing. I'd like to also add that I'm the kid who cried at Cubert dying at the end of Pixel. June 2020, the YouTuber arc. Surprisingly, this doesn't suck. Now hold on, it isn't flawless, it's just a step in the right direction. Wow, they took a whole year off doing ongoing narratives and came back with something that feels more planned out? Weird how that works. The story centers around SMG4's main rival, SMG3. Holy crap, you guys. I get to talk about SMG3. He is my guy. I remember him being hilarious in the Golden Age. He'd have such evil plans that would pathetically fall apart by the end. Unfortunately, over time you saw him less and less. Thankfully that was rectified, with this arc serving as a big return for the iconic character.
Joe's barbecue and foot massage. Joe's barbecue and foot massage.
That's it. Work it for me. Work for daddy.
The fuck? SMG3 this time around gathers a team that he uses to replace the main SMG4 cast. I do want to give props to the creativity of how they go about this. The anti-cast literally go into the episode that introduced a new character and changed the event so it never happened. As someone who's been watching way too much SMG4 content, this feels like such a reward for sticking it out. You know, kinda like when your kidnapper brings you KFC for dinner.
Aw, sweet!
I also like this version of War of the Fat Italians. Instead of Mario vs. 4, it's the SMG4 crew versus the SMG3 crew. If I were to get into some issues, I would say this is one of those things where it starts and ends strong with an unfortunate middle chunk that feels dragged out. There's literally an episode that doesn't tie into much where the former YouTube CEO Susan fucks with Mario just because. Also, there's an episode about dead memes. Although now that I think about it, it's crazy to think this might not be the most poorly aged thing from the arc. March 2021, the Genesis arc. Everyone watching, try your best to stick with me here. This is a semi-sequel to the YouTube arc, and it's not good. Why is that? Because it goes off the rails with so many confusing choices both in the story and outside. Alright, SMG4, let's have a chat. Why is there a movie as an episode? It's not even one at the end, which it would make sense. Damn you for that, because I'm on the arc section of my video, and I don't know how to approach this. Not to spoil it, but I'm gonna cover the movie, so I genuinely don't know how to tackle this. So the Genesis arc tackles the origin of SMG4 and SMG3. Through a big grand adventure, we learned that they're heroes with powers. You remember the channel's name? You thought it stood for Super Mario Glitchy 4? What could have given you that idea? The correct abbreviation is Super Meme Guardian 4. I'm gonna be so honest, I find it so hard to care. I'm not one for plots that unravel a hidden backstory to something nobody's ever wondered about. If you somehow are a person who wants the lore, you should watch the 200th video special. This special canonizes that Luke makes all of his content in the real world. This means SMG4 is all about a guy who sits and plays Mario 64 all day as his own self-insert. I really wonder how that works later on. Back on topic, why haven't I talked much about the topic? Well, I already said everything important relating to the title. Viewers who go into this expecting an origin story throughout are very mistaken. Oh, but I suppose I left out one detail about this arc, in that this is actually a Doom love story between two side characters, Axel and Melanie.
What?
Axel you already know enough from the anime arc. Melanie, on the other hand, while you think you don't know, she was actually in the YouTube arc. Where, you ask? Why, the Melon serving as Maggie's counterpart, of course. Her real first appearance was later on in an episode about Mask that when worn turns you into the character of who you wear. When Melanie got a French name Mask, she became a human. I'll admit, their story is done well. Axel has a crush on Melanie and doesn't quite know how to express it. The only way he knows how is by drawing fanfics where he pops the question of her potentially being his girlfriend. He hesitates a lot on doing this for real, until this evil force shows up relating to I don't know, something like SMG4 and 3 related, about like meme origin powers, something like that. I don't know, who cares? What matters is that this evil force possesses Axel. Unfortunately, the gang isn't able to free him from the dark force. Melanie is told by Axel the only way to beat... What the hell? His name is SMG4? Oh, I bet that's an interesting plot. Melanie is told by Axel the only way to beat Zero is to kill him, as it would take Zero down with him. Before Melanie does anything though, she hands Axel the manga he wrote, where she finishes the story for him with a yes to his question. Afterwards, she sadly has to do what she has to save her and the SMG4 crew. By the way, this took place in a War of the Fat Italian special where Mario was like the bad guy because he's like some sort of god that holds the universe together. Alright! I think you can see the issue here. It's constantly jumping between an origin story, a love story, between side characters, a damn movie celebrating the 10-year anniversary, which like, congratulations man, really, it's just, did it have to be part of an ongoing arc? The craziest part is, there's a semi-trequel to this. December 2021, the Revelation arc. This one is kinda interesting. Not in terms of story, no. I mean the way they went about making this. It feels like both Luke and the writers realized how crazy the story got last time, so hit the semi-reset button. Basically, this is just the Genesis arc again, but this time they actually planned it out. The story from what I picked up is Melanie going to a school to learn her new powers, while also coping with the death of Axel. She's able to learn her new abilities better when she meets this guy named Niles. He's basically like the Uncle Ben of it all, except I lied. He's the Green Goblin.
Hello, my dear.
Right before the finale, a big twist transpires where it's revealed that Niles was in Melanie's head all along. He implanted himself in her after she defeated him in his Elrich form. Now with him back, he takes control of Melanie and sets off to find the original meme guardian, SMG4. To give context, long before Freddy saying weird things to Mario, there was this perfect land where two friends named SMG4 and Fred lived. These two took care of all of the memes, until one day, the memes started corrupting. Zero seeked out far and wide to get help and came across the God Box. He would often go there to pray for help, and the response was an artificial meme guardian named Niles. After which, things seemed to be going better. Until they didn't. The God Box would corrupt Niles into an evil, power-hungry man who wants to create the perfect universe. He does such evil things like killing Fred, and taking Zero to merge with for unlimited power. Now with context plus everything else I've explained, the many loose threads of SMG4 finally wrap up in a beautiful bow. Melanie makes peace with her past and helps protect her friends. SMG4 and 3 finally realize their meme power potential. And Niles is stopped from creating his ideal universe. None of this matters, by the way. I suppose I'll quickly sum up my thoughts. Meh. I'm sorry, serious SMG4 still doesn't work for me, and it becomes increasingly harder to explain why. If I had one positive, I like this box guy. He has a fun voice and fun expressions. As for the bad, none of this matters! I wouldn't say this era has been retconned per se, although I would say it's been intentionally forgotten about. Melanie is practically a god, and 4 and 3 are unstoppable with their meme powers, so how could they have a villain again? They would get beaten in seconds. Actually, Luke had an answer for this. That answer being, have the characters never mention how overpowered they are, thus, they're weak again. To be fair, who could possibly challenge the SMG4 crew if the writers kept constantly using their powers? Maybe the owners of Mario? August 2022, the Lawsuit Arc. The story here is that SMG4 gets into legal trouble with Nintendo. This results in non-related Nintendo characters getting banned from the Mushroom Kingdom. It's now up to 4 and Meggy to find a parody law that proves SMG4 has legal rights to hanging out with Mario. Something like that. The concept on paper sounds fun, like the possibilities of where to take this are endless. I have nothing to back this up, but I wouldn't be surprised if Luke and or Kevin got inspiration from an SML-faced lawsuit from Nintendo. Perhaps the Jeffy X Mega community will finally thrive! The final episode takes place in a court, except it doesn't, and instead it's a Waffy. Well, I've already seen all this before. Did it really make sense for Waluigi to take over Waffy? I suppose not, but it was cool to see him do it. The YouTube arc also ended with a Waffy, although that had another twist that made it work within the context of the story. That isn't something I could say for the Lawsuit arc. It just feels like we're going through the motions. Overly dramatic stuff, Waffy battle, and then a rap battle that defeats the villain. The major shakeup this time around is that SMG4 has to physically change along with SMG3, Bob, and Fishy Bookins. To be fair, this changing a character's design is done a lot better here than it was with Meggy, since it actually bothers to tie into the narrative. Now the designs themselves. I know I said I wasn't much of a Bob guy, but his model plus voice is what gave him his somewhat level of charm. This more cleaner model I feel misses the point, since the voice doesn't fit him nearly as much. SMG4 and 3 on the other hand, they're okay. You could tell these were the ones that got worked on the most. I sure wonder who they cut corners on. So they look the best, apart from their weird dead eyes. It's not like any of this matters now, as after some criticisms, the models would be massively improved. It's strange, I thought I had more to say for the arc that made me stop watching SMG4. But rewatching it now, there isn't anything terrible. There's only that been there, done that vibe that I felt both then and now. The only difference is Baby Blue had the luxury of quitting while I have to talk about Tumblr's sexy man. March 2024, Puzzle Vision. I don't think I could begin to explain the repercussions caused by this arc. Before this, I hadn't heard SMG4's name muttered in any conversation. That changed with this. Even after the story concluded, the internet kept spreading this TV guy. So you know what? Fine, I'll bite. What was SMG4 cooking up? Nothing. He was only reheating leftovers. Remember way back when SMG4 uploaded this series called, what was it? If Mario was in blank? Yeah, imagine they did that concept again, added the other characters, and called it an arc. Well, wonder no more, as Puzzle Visions did exactly that. I don't mean to sound dismissive, after all, I have expressed fond memories towards the Mario and Blink series. With that said, Puzzle Vision is lame. 5 videos total, with 3 following the exact same structure of the characters doing generic parodying, TV guy shows up for a second, and then something really scary happens. Episode 4 is kinda like that, except not really. Since the character decided to show up for more than 2 seconds, I'm gonna finally say his name. The newcomer villain this time around is named Mr. Puzzles. Because of their ability to include the character and not do much parody, Episode 4 is easily the best episode of the bunch. Episode 4 is best described as the SMG4 crew messing around on a game show, and Mr. Puzzles realizing he's kidnapped a bunch of idiots. Crazy thing, there's a solid joke here, where at the start you'll notice the video is formatted in 4:3, which you wouldn't question at first since, I mean, look at this thing. Later on, Mario gets tossed into a cage and gets thrown into the border. Not only is the fourth wall break effect cool, but Mario in the corner being himself is... Damn it, I'll give you this one time, modern SMG4. You've managed to make me pull out the laugh sprite. Puzzle Vision ended with a movie of the same name. Unfortunately, it's about the same quality as episodes 1 through 3 with parodies that aren't all too interesting. The only genuine praise I can give is the song Mr. Puzzles has. For a brief moment, I'm interested in an SMG4 story thanks to the grand music, backstory being sung, motivations being laid out. It's a really fun musical number and then it stops. Nothing a puzzle vision before or after comes close to the gallons of fun that creative control provides, and that's a real shame. More uninteresting parodies, besides South Park, and half-baked elements. There's a part where Puzzle's power starts controlling more people, although that's applied for like 2 seconds. Once the crew finally beat the guy, it's like, did they save the world? The stakes aren't clear. Wait, why does Luigi have this really big scene of sacrificing himself? This is literally his first time doing anything across the 5 episodes. Wait, why are most of these characters here if they can't add anything due to always being under mind control? Yeah, the more I think about it, the more Puzzle Visions falls apart for me, even if by the end I would say it's the most inoffensive of the bunch. There! All the arcs! Safe to say these videos really tested the SMG4 fanbase, with all sadly not coming out in the end. I can't say I blame them though, they're incredibly inconsistent. One arc can have fun batches of episodes that connect well together, while the next has videos where the plot doesn't even kick in until over the halfway point. One story will know exactly who to focus on, while others add character after character thinking that makes the plot more interesting. The Genesis and Revelation arc are undoubtedly the most important part for those who want the lore, but a lot of the characters and story added either don't do much within the plot, or flat out don't even matter anymore. It's a lose-lose situation. Don't care about the arcs? Too bad, you're gonna have to deal with them for the next few months. Do you like the arcs? Prepare for them to be half-baked or flushed down the toilet. While I did have fun revisiting the ones I remember, most of the value came from nostalgia. How about the new stuff? Did I regret watching it? Not necessarily. You see, I was miserable, no doubt. I just don't regret making myself miserable. In fact, watch me do it some more. You thought the arcs were too much? You're right. However, we still need to go over the movies. Starting in 2020, Luke decided to step into the film industry. For his first feature, it may seem obvious what to make, but that's because it's the most natural conclusion to come to. Meggy.
You can't be memeing at a funeral.
Let's be fair here, this was the first of its kind. I can imagine Luke wanting to play it safe. Why would you jump headfirst into an SMG4 movie? Could SMG4 even lend itself for a longer story? Well, if you were invested in Meggy's character after the anime arc, this will satisfy you okay. Heck, it did for me when I first watched it. The thing is, there isn't much to look back on. I like to stem from the fact the story isn't anything special. I know, criticizing SMG4 writing for being safe. Crazy, am I right? I don't know. I feel like it's fair to want a little more when you're making a movie. It especially applies if you're toning down the thing people watch the channel for, the comedy. While they dialed that part back, the story unfortunately doesn't step up. To quickly sum it up, Meggy and gang gotta win the Splatfest so Meggy can fulfill Destiny's dying wish of winning it for her. Got yourself a rival team that says mean things, an obvious twist later on where a team cheats, and... well damn, I gotta hand it to them for only doing 2 obvious tropes. Of course she wins, with this being a perfectly serviceable conclusion to Meggy's story. Boy, am I glad they left it there. There isn't anything else for her. Nope, nothing. Anyone who tells you otherwise is wrong and not invited to the SMG4 party. Next up, 2023's It's Gotta Be Perfect. This technically counts as an arc, but there's no official playlist, so I'm only gonna cover the film. The story's about 4 wanting to make the perfect video. When purchasing a keyboard to do that task, it becomes all evil and bad things happen, you know, typical storytelling. It's now up to the gang to help 4 from the curse of being a YouTuber. SMG3 is a surprisingly prominent character throughout, and even a bigger shocker is that he's interesting. It's to the point where I wish the whole movie was only him and 4. Everyone else feels like an obligation, so we can get that shot of them all so sad when the Peach Castle gets destroyed. Oh yeah, the castle's completely gone by the end. That is a bold move. It's like destroying the SML Red Couch. You don't just casually do that. Now here's them casually doing that. This doesn't really feel all too earned, if I'm gonna be honest. The castle falling apart feels like the writers are overdoing it to make the story feel more important. It's a shame, since there are other elements that definitely could have used more care, like SMG4's character. The story touches on his fear as a YouTuber, although his motivation for a villain turnaround is non-existent. We're told he's scared of losing it all, but we're not shown if that's even a possibility. There is no driving factor of why 4 wants to make a perfect video. He just does, and that is enough to hold this bigger story they clearly want to do. I think this would have been the perfect opportunity to get meta by reflecting on all the changes to SMG4. It could be something like 4 realizing his content is vastly different compared to when he started, which drives away some subscribers. This then makes him want to create the perfect video. It's then throughout the special, he learns he can't please everyone. It's simple, but better than nothing at all. Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure Peach also dies here. 2023 also saw the release of another SMG4 movie, a second Meggy movie, Western Spaghetti. I can't pick which is weirder, the fact Luke did another Meggy-centered film, or the fact that this wasn't half bad. It's genuinely insane what the special does. It like, focuses on the characters it needs to, and like, has a plot that flows smoothly? I know it sounds insane, officer, but I swear that Mario was blue and white and telling a cohesive story. The first quarter of it is fine, you know, the gang doing silly Western stuff. Hold on a second there, partner. Why are we even here? It's the moment you, as the viewer, question that, so do the characters. More specifically, Meggy. The build-up to the world not being what it seems is done great. It begins with Meggy going into a bar, with a shot that includes Axel hidden in the back. Before you even have time to question that, holy shit! That's when things get crazier with Meggy trying to escape this false reality. She's able to momentarily thanks to Tari, who was able to escape first because, well, simulation hopping is literally her thing. I mean, have you seen Menno Runner? No. Prior to the special, Meggy as an inkling had an idol, One Shot Ren. And many years later, she got the urge to find him. She would later discover he now lives in a town called Western Spaghetti. Determined to meet him, Meggy sets off with her friends on a train ride that would take them straight to One Shot Ren. Strangely, the ride would get hijacked with everyone being captured and then put into pods to be trapped in a simulation. Now, what's the meaning of all this? Here's a twist I bet you didn't expect. The guy Meggy idolized is the bad guy. Okay, well, that was the most obvious direction to take the narrative. It's what they do after this reveal that keeps it interesting. It's revealed Ren set up Meggy to come find him since she was the winner of the last Splatfest, in hopes that she would join him. It's there we also get his backstory where he lost everything once he was no longer the best at the game. He's then mysteriously handed a digital world where he's the best again. When she, unsurprisingly, declines, he tells her they're still in the digital world, and for declining his offer, he's gonna make them rivals. This means Meggy now constantly wakes up in the Western Spaghetti world, only to get shot by Ren, and then waking up like it never happened. This then all repeats over and over again, driving her insane. Then Tari hacks her way in to come save the day, have a character arc being strong because yeah, there was a thing going on, and help Meggy beat the bad guy. So yeah, solid movie. I don't mean to sound rude when I say this, but it's just so refreshing to have a piece of media that's competent. Finally, an SMG4 movie where things function as a movie like you expect them to. They really had me there for a moment. I truly believed I wasn't going to be a serious story SMG4 fan, and I was generally correct. Enjoying like 1.5 of these doesn't make me a fan. At the end of the day, I still think serious SMG4 isn't for me. I don't think there's even a point to criticize. The general concept isn't appealing to me. The only thing I could say is, say it with me now, they're inconsistent and often feeling half-baked. Even if this format isn't my cup of tea, I still want to say by the end, I could see this working for someone else. And I struggle thinking of who when I finish one of these. Oh well, at least we still have the regular machinimas. If we're going to be covering modern SMG4, it's a good thing we already went over every arc/movie. Sure, they're optional, although watching the series without any sort of context will result in jumping from Mario 64 bloopers to an Asian and Mario living in a circus tent. At that point, I'll have to tap the sign. Shame on you for not watching if Mario was in Newgrounds. That is required to understand how we got here. What if you truly didn't care though? Is the channel still enjoyable to watch for old-time fans? Well, let's quickly cover exactly what they're doing. Episodes now lean towards visual humor, with characters constantly moving funny or making a wacky face. Although I wouldn't say that was the fault of this era, this is more so the pinnacle from a gradual build-up throughout the years. At the beginning, SMG4 I'd say was more dialogue focus. To be fair, this most likely wasn't done by choice. Luke most likely was still figuring it out, not fully discovering that he can abuse ragdolls in Gmod. When that did happen, I'd still say there was a balance between humorous dialogue and wacky ragdoll stuff. That clearly didn't last since we're here now and I'm playing footage that won't stop to breathe. There isn't anything inherently wrong with the style. Heck, it looks good in short bursts, and is impressive the team is able to push this type of stuff out weekly. The thing is, less can be more. You don't need to move SMG4 all over the place, animate his lips, and do a camera pullback that green screens him through a window. Like, you do all that and it doesn't really come out the best. Again though, it can look solid. Like later on in the same episode, Wario and Mario have some great poses and expressions. All I'm saying is that some scale back would only be beneficial. Not only would that allow for punchlines with big expressions to work better, it would also mean the N64 models can have more screen time. You don't need to do whatever happened in this shot. You can use the low poly SMG4 model to do 2 or 3 crouches. It conveys just as efficiently, downright looks better, and is most definitely easier to do. In terms of the content within episodes, they keep it simple. Videos usually follow the structure of what's seemingly a normal everyday thing being pushed to its limits. If I were to criticize anything character-wise, I'd say the cast has gone through that magic word of flanderization. The only one worth mentioning is with Mario, as within the context of the Genesis arc, he's kinda sad to look at. Think about it. He was once acting like canon Mario, until something fell from the sky that forever changed something in his head. The years only show that he's getting worse, like the recent bike episode where he could barely say actual sentences. It's all just memes now. Fuck, I'm starting to act like that one tweet. You also have Waffy still going on, with a single one being unrelated to any sort of story. Kind of. If there was one, and I don't doubt there was, I just didn't watch it. That said, I got through 2023's Waffy okay. The story is Mario going evil, with him having some dirt on both 4 and 3. The dirt in question... You can't make me talk about this. I'm not doing it. What I do want to talk about is the animation here. Like, damn, focusing on this alone, it's so nice. The special is a spy/heist thriller, as 4 and 3 sneak into Mario's casino, which I guess he just has now, as they try to retrieve back stuff. I'll admit, the fact that prior to this Waffy, the people could vote for what their plan was gonna be, and actually see them do the plan, is kind of cool. I'm sure it must have been sweet to see the ones you voted for potentially win, and then see the wacky outcome of that choice. And you know what, they've done plenty of these Waffys before, so I don't really mind them changing the formula. I was right though in calling the casino song yucky. Another thing they're getting more experimental with are the mini arcs. The latest example is Puzzle Park. Shortly after being defeated, Mr. Puzzles will return with barely an explanation. With him back, he returns to scheming against 4. His next major appearance would be in SMG4 and the Meme Factory, which teases him at the end planning to break into the recently opened location. The episode itself is, I guess, normal. However, I have to take a detour to talk about it. While this thing was introduced in a video prior, they're at their worst here. Since this episode parodies Willy Wonka, obviously you need some Oompa Loompas. They would go about this by adding the semi-new character, Leggy. What you are seeing is exactly what you think it is. Meggy has the ability to turn into this oh so cute form where she just makes the cutest of sounds and is so small. Oh, look how small you are. Shut up! Oh wait, that isn't gonna happen because she gets her own song number. Dusty died for this. It's one thing to make a lame character, it's also another to make them into a plushie. Out of anything and everything that has happened under the Glitch Production brand, Leggy is easily the most desperate merch I've ever seen. Nothing screams corporate like the Leggy plush. She literally exists in videos to sell you a plush. Okay, enough of that. I was talking about this. Back to the mini arc. Mr. Puzzles gets tangled up with Leggy, and they form a surprising friendship with one another. He uses this to his advantage to get into the Meme Factory for his evil plan where he'll like sneak into the comedy room to like learn the secrets or something like that. I don't know, the Leggy stuff is still making me mad. Oh, thank goodness she's back to normal. Alright, so Mr. Puzzles' plan fails in the end, and he's at his lowest point. After all that, we're now in the part 2.5, like part 3 of Mr. Puzzles. I don't know, it kind of gets a little confusing. Where now he's creating his own brand by degrading himself on YouTube with brain rot videos. It works enough to catch the eye of Disney. Mickey invites Mr. Puzzles over to talk to him about potentially joining as a creative director. It seems to go smoothly until Puzzles betrays the mouse by throwing him off his own building. Oh yeah, this will make a good clip to post to show why this baby show for babies isn't for babies. After all that... screw it, let's end on a war of fat Italians. For what it's worth, I actually prefer how Mr. Puzzles is here compared to his original arc. This might be because we actually get to spend time with him and he gets the chance to grow on the viewer. The writers also went out of their way to give a bit more backstory and generally making him a fun villain to watch. Heck, they sweetened the deal by adding a solid song. My only small complaint is I was 100% right on Meggie. After the Disney stuff, Puzzle locates Meggie to recruit her for his theme park. He tries to remind her of the good times they had, although Meggie isn't won over by it. This makes Puzzles forced to bring out the leggy in her, which you'd think would come back in some way in the final fight where it either stops Puzzles or potentially redeems him. While they toy around with the concept, nothing much comes from it. So I was right, leggy sucks. I'm gonna replay this footage but backward because I'm too lazy to print out another picture. The last thing I'm going to cover is the R64 series, also known as Remastered 64. As the title implies, R64 sets out to take the classics and give them a visual upgrade alongside humor that is more in line with today's time. For example, the R in R64 used to stand for really dumb. At first, I thought these videos would be right up my alley. It goes without saying that I enjoy the originals, and I've spoken mostly positively towards the visuals of the modern episodes. So this makes too much sense. For what they are, I'd say they're pretty solid. Now, these wouldn't be my definitive ways of watching them, but I wouldn't get into an argument with someone who prefers the remasters over the original. That doesn't mean they are without issues. Actually, I've picked up some problems of modern SMG4 through the R64 series since they're a fair example to use when comparing eras. This first one, while arguably leaning towards preference, is still something I want to address. That being the favoritism towards using Gmod. My problem is, yes, they utilize it amazingly, but I miss the mashup. To me, it's more charming that there's a Mario 64 model running around while a Gmod character is in the background, and you also have a PNG of a character messing around. When you strip that away and only keep the Gmod, it loses that uniqueness in favor of a cleaner looking video. I don't think it's 100% worth it, although again, this is more of a preference. A real issue I found when watching the remasters is this sense of insecurity you could feel from watching. I get the channel's a comedy, but you don't need a meme every second. Here's an example of what I mean. In the original Return to Freddy's Spaghetti-Ria, near the end, Purple Guy corrupts the toy animatronics. We then see the Wizards fight the toys. Balloon Boy, due to being corrupt, does an evil laugh. That checks out. The remaster decides to alter that, where instead of an evil laugh, Balloon Boy sings the Cleveland Show theme. It feels like the writers are scared that if they don't do one every second, the viewer's gonna click off. Those two issues are the biggest for not only the remakes but general episodes that make me not interested in SMG4, with there totally not being another reason I'm just not choosing to bring up. You know what though, let's not even stop there. I'm sure there's more problems we could find. Like these redesigns. Boy, are these stupid. How about those classic videos where they were slightly more stretched out than they should be? I miss when they were like that. Oh, and I can't forget when the green screen effects were introduced, Luke would sloppily leave behind the black bars. Those were such a good thing. The videos were objectively better like this. Now you're telling me that they want cleaner looking videos? No, that is not how I remember my SMG4. It's too much. I think I finally realized it. One thing didn't break SMG4. No, it's death by 1,000 cuts that steered this channel in the wrong direction, leaving behind the real fans. Why Ayada, SM, Luke G, Lord Rechago, Glitchy Guardian 4? I'm gonna knock some sense into you! Make videos like how I remember them! You've heard of a BLJ? Let me show you a BAS! A body against stairs! Second art! Oh, so it's like that, huh? You want to play like that?
Fine, let's play like that. You and your insane, dangerous spice. We're not done. Get on here. Get on the board. Get on the board. All right. I want to do it, man. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
And then they resolve their differences. Boy, am I sure glad we worked things out, huh, SMG4?
Super Mario in real life.
You know, for even after all these years, you still got it. You know, you may not be the same from when I watched you, but I've realized that's okay. When I posed the question of, is SMG4 still an enjoyable watching experience? I'll admit, it was super challenging to write an answer. I would enjoy staying positive and saying, yes, SMG4 is still great, go watch it, you'll be laughing like you're 10 again. To an extent, that is the truth. Even then, there are plenty of people who call out the channel for not being as good as it used to be. And I just gotta tell these people, it's okay to grow up. I know, it's scary. And I also know you did not click on this video to hear a corny message from a blue guy that did an unfunny bit during the live stream. Here's the thing, that's the truth. There isn't anything horribly wrong with modern SMG4 from an objective standpoint. I'd go as far to say it's better in some ways. I mean, the new stuff at least has appropriate language for the target audience. Now, I'm not saying you aren't allowed to criticize. What I am saying is that acting like the modern stuff is pure garbage while the classic videos are flawless is ridiculous. This is no way meant to belittle Luke's work, but SMG4 resonates most when you're a kid or a teenager. No matter what era, that's just how it was for the majority. But then I have to say, isn't that sweet in a way? That magical feeling you got from watching is all yours. The next generation, meanwhile, won't get something worse, just something different. So, for those who stick around, is it enjoyable to watch? Yes and no. There are plenty of videos that satisfy modern fans, but there are also videos I'd say original fans would get a kick out of. These include Luigi Doesn't Need Mario, Find Luigi, and Mario Gambles His Life. If it's been a hot minute since you've watched SMG4, I'd say try these videos out. You might be surprised. Even then, I've accepted what my opinion is on the channel now. Occasionally, an episode will be a blast from the past, but in the end, my time watching is up, and that's okay. Isn't that right, For? Suppose it's time for the next kid, huh? Go get him, Super Mario Glitchy. Sorry, I meant Super Mean Guardian 4. That's so nice.